Hello, how are you? Okay, so we're gonna get started working on doing the reality shifting part 2. How was your week? Awesome, Luminal Mind. I'm glad you could make it this week. Yeah, so if you watched the reality shifting live from last week, you'll be somewhat familiar with the concept. And this seems like somewhat of a fluid concept. People tend to be using it either to kind of incrementally shift their current reality, or even kind of shift or try to experience like alternate realities or universes. Like in the previous lives that we did on the creation templates, this shifting reality came up where I brought up the article that was talking about using the elevator method and the Alice in Wonderland method to shift reality, and people were using it to shift into realities like Hogwarts. So initially I thought, well, that's not incredibly, relevant. But then as I was doing the research this week on the different methods for reality shifting, one of them, especially the train method, it's made me think of the movie Divergent. And if you've seen the movie Divergent, basically you've got people sorted into different factions or groups based on, I would say, their character and neurotypes. So they've got this neurotype which has all the capacity to fit into any of the roles, and this kind of neurotype, those people were very threatening to the system, so there was all this drama about it. But there is this train that one of the factions they jump out of, and that method made me think of that train in the movie Divergent. So I was thinking it would be really helpful to use movies as a reference. You could be watching a segment of a movie to prepare you for this kind of meditation. I call this practice visioneering. We must envision, use visualization to engineer our future potentials. Cool. Yeah, I like that. That's a great way of putting it. When I look into it, it sounds like we're talking about manifestation, but there's a nuance to it, and a lot of the people who are talking about it online, they seem to be quite young, so this seems to be quite popular with the younger generation. But I think that is incredible and amazing, because you're expanding your mind, you're thinking about what's possible, and you're allowing yourself to imagine, yeah, what's possible. And there's this kind of fun and there's this play element to it, right? You don't think too much about watching a movie or playing a video game, right? And one of the people in the videos said that there's no wrong way to do this. So I thought, oh, okay, I tend to take things quite seriously, so that's helpful to have the attitude of play with it. And for it to be playful and fun, like, it has to be somewhat fun for you to be able to do this. If we don't design our own lives, rest assured someone else will. Yeah, and that's what happens. We have this society where we are fitting into a design that other people have created, and maybe it doesn't fit for us. So, I'm excited about talking about some of these techniques, and I'm thinking, you know what, I should implement some of them within my life. So some of the things I thought about was that you often have to have a peaceful, quiet space and enough time to relax in your life to be able to do these kind of methods. So if you're really rushed and busy all the time, then I don't think this is going to work super well for you. And one of the things I did this week is I downloaded an app with a to-do list where I started just kind of downloading in my mind all the things that I wanted to do, and also put daily reminders of things that I wanted to do consistently to help me basically manage my time better, but it's not even about the time, it's about managing my energy better so that I don't just end up feeling really exhausted and then end up like blindly scrolling through YouTube and spending this time that it's like this kind of dead zone time. It's not really very productive, and I think there's ways that I could manage my energy better where I don't end up in that state. So for example, I end up working and then focusing a lot on work and then kind of forgetting to eat and forgetting to move my body and stretch, and then I end up feeling tired, and then there's the feeling tired is this kind of cycle. And one of the days I went biking after work and I joined this women's group, and during work I felt tired, but while I was biking I felt fine. I had lots of energy. So your energy can shift a lot depending on what you're doing and how that's feeding it or draining it. So this was something that I was playing with as well. So I thought, oh, this is so great, because if I can free up my energy to have that focus, then I can apply that to something like this, which is really fun and interesting to play with. Okay, so we will get into the different methods. So the first video I looked at was an overview of different methods, which was really helpful. And I will have the links in the description at the end. If you want to take a look at the links right away, I have been saving links into the playlist live stream references on my, I think, connected to my channel, just so it's easy for me to access them. So if you want to look at those videos right away. Okay, so the top 3 reality shifting methods compared and explained. And this is by the channel Lucid Dreaming Experience. So first we have the pillow method. You write a script with a short description of the desired reality you want. You put the script under your pillow before going to sleep. You lay in the starfish position, relax your body until you fall asleep, and you wake up in your desired reality. So one thing that I'm noticing that is consistent, whether it's these kind of reality shifting methods or manifestation methods, is that they are directing your attention and focus to this desired reality. And I think it should be something that makes you feel good, that you feel inspired by, that brings you positive emotions and feelings. So if you are taking the time to write down this script, it is putting your mind in kind of this positive state before you go to sleep, which is helpful. So I think this sounds like a fairly easily accessible method. So I'm all for that, making something easier and not having to have it really complicated. So that could be something really great, like just to get started, you know, I'll just do it today. I'll get started today and I'll do something that is like it has the lowest amount of obstacles to get started. So that's really helpful if you decide, what can I do today? And just make it accessible enough and easy enough for you to be able to do right away, instead of trying to think, well, you know what, I really want to do this amazing thing, and having it kind of big and complicated in your mind, and then just not doing it because, oh, I don't have the energy for that. So this method, so this is a new method, the I am method. This method is based on awareness and identification with your new reality. So you constantly tell yourself, I'm in my new reality. I'm in my desired reality. I am, and then whatever it is you want to do or be in your desired reality. And what's key for this is you really need to embody that belief. You really need to believe it with every piece of your being. What comes to mind for this is that when you're starting it, it's easy to doubt yourself. It's easy to think, well, I'm doing this wrong. And then if you start experiencing too much of that self-criticism, you end up quitting because that doesn't feel good. So it can be helpful to kind of detach from it and kind of be like, okay, I'm going to focus on this for a minute. Like, this seems like something good that would be where you have a reminder on your phone and you set a minute where I'm going to focus on this for a minute. You've got a reminder, you set a timer for a minute, and you say out loud or imagine saying these I am statements. So you kind of create a schedule for yourself and create this, make it easy. Make it so you don't have to constantly decide what you're going to do, make decisions on it, kind of like automating the process. So this really helps when you have days where you don't feel like doing it. If you have a process automated where you're like, I do this every single day at this time or at these periods of the day, you're not thinking about it, you can kind of move into it automatically. What also helps is that now your conscious brain is less likely to get in the way because you're kind of automated in the process. Kind of like how I have this routine now of doing these lives every week, so I don't question it too much, I just do it. I don't worry too much about the videos that I'm producing, whether the content's good enough. Sometimes I will still see the videos and have some self-doubt, but that's not like a constant worry that I experience that I used to experience when I started, because in a sense I've automated this process where I have a certain routine that I follow. You're never going to get it perfect, so it's better to just go ahead and do it and almost bring down the importance of it. So you really need to embody that belief with the I am method and really need to believe it with every piece of your being as best as you can in that moment, because maybe you're not feeling great that day or you don't have a lot of focus. But here's the thing, even when you're not feeling great and when you don't have a lot of focus, you can still have incredible results and progress. And this is crazy. Like, you think, oh, yeah, I'm just not gonna do it today because I don't feel great. Well, guess what? Like, huge change can happen that day. When I used to ski race, I had the most incredible result in a race where I had a transcendent experience. And guess what? Like, I felt awful. That was the worst day that I felt. I woke up and I was like, oh man, I feel like shit. And I had, it was a sprint race, so you had the qualifiers, and then from the qualifiers that seeds you in the heats. You have to qualify top 30. Guess what? I qualified 30th. I barely made it into the heats, and I ended up winning the race. And also had an out-of-body experience, like in the final part of the race. It was crazy. When you show up and do the work in a sustainable way, right? If you're going to perform at a high level, and I would say, these kind of techniques, if you've got your life together and you're bringing this kind of focus and optimism and faith and belief into your life, like, you're gearing yourself up for what I would call like high performance. And if you're not seeing results in your life, you're bringing that high performance energetically, right? And you keep bringing that, of course it's gonna show up. So I think, like, it's so counterintuitive because you think, well, if you're not feeling great, it's not worth it. But it can completely be worth it if you're not burnt out. If you're burnt out, you probably just need to rest. And of course there's a difference there, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. The Radiant I Am, a self-healing. Oh, Emma Curtis Hopkins, a must read or listen. Okay, so we've got a great book recommendation. Thank you for sharing that. related to this topic, the radiant I am. Okay, so next method, the Raven method. So this is one that sounds like it's quite popular for some people. And it's the same as the pillow method, but you don't fall asleep. You count to 100 or higher, and with every count, include affirmations in between each number in your head. So you would say, like the example they gave was like, 1, I am in my desired reality. 2, I am shifting. 3, I have shifted. And to my logical mind, that doesn't make sense, because if you've already shifted and you still have 97 counts minimum left to go, would you just go back around? I think that's just an example. I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the first 100 you say, I'm in my desired reality. The second 100, I'm shifting. The third 100, I have shifted. So I'm not exactly sure on that point. So there's some freedom with that. And every method that someone has made it. Someone has created it. Someone has used their creative energy to come up with this. So there's freedom, and you can apply what works for you here. So with this method, it's more effective if you take your time. And they say it takes about 20 minutes, and you need to be really mindful and be really strongly focused on your desired reality when you get to the end of the count. And they suggest like 200 to 300 works well, and some people even use 500. Okay, so the next method is the subliminals method. You listen to a subliminal track while lying down or doing another technique. So very, very simple. And there's lots of subliminal tracks available. You can just search up reality shifting guided meditation, and that will give you some tracks that you can use. Okay, so here's the elevator method. And they say lay in the starfish position and listen to a subliminal track. So imagine yourself in an elevator, and you can imagine as many floors as you want, at least 50 floors. And I thought, oh, that's more than I expected, right? I don't know that many elevators with 50 floors, but then again, I don't live in a big city. So as you imagine yourself moving up the floors, you tell yourself that you're getting closer to your desired reality. When you get to your desired floor, the elevator doors open, and you step into the floor that is your desired reality. And when I was listening to this, I was thinking of connecting kind of like dimensions to different floors, like imagining different dimensions on different floors. So I forget which live stream it was. It was a little while back where I mentioned someone who was channeling the year 2030, I think, or 2033 or something like that. And they were talking about a World War III, and like they're connecting into that reality. And I'm like, oh, like I'm not connecting to that reality. But if you start to think about, like, we're being surrounded by different realities, I think it's fairly easy, at least for me, to imagine, you know, different realities being connected to the different floors, which is not what I thought about when I initially heard about this elevator method, but I can see it. Your point earlier about play is great and an important reminder. Scripts are written for plays. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. Of course, that ties into the idea that, like, we're experiencing and living a play. And it's totally different experience when you are in the audience experiencing the play versus when you are the director or the scriptwriter or the actors in the play. Like, to me, it seems almost less exciting. because you're not surprised by what's happening in the play. Like, you already know what's gonna happen. But then it's also really exciting because you're tapping into your power as a creator. So that's fun. Yeah. Okay, so for this elevator method, as you step out of the elevator into the floor where your desired reality is, you accept your new experience. You lay down on that floor in that reality and you go to sleep. And the idea is that you wake up in your desired reality. So you've got your visualization where you walk out onto the floor and then you lay down on the floor and then you fall asleep in the visualization, and I'm assuming you fall asleep in this life. And then when you wake up in the desired reality, which is like wild. It's wild. It's very consistent to the live stream that we did at the beginning of the year, where we were talking about possibilities, we're talking about experiencing extraterrestrials and maybe even like fairies, mermaids, dragons. So, you know what? You can work with it and play with it. Like, I'm kind of seeing the connection, and I'm glad that we're looking into this and actually looking at the techniques, because it's coming together for me. Okay, here's the train method. So this train method was what made me think of the Divergent movie, which was such a cool movie. I loved it so much when it came out. Imagine yourself being on a train. Your eyes are closed. You can feel and sense where you are. You imagine hearing the train tracks. And this is where I was thinking it would be helpful to like actually watch a movie and like close your eyes watching this movie, or listening to the soundtrack or the sounds in the movie, to help prime yourself to imagine, because it can be hard to just imagine just on a blank slate. When you feel like you have reached the stop at your desired reality, open your eyes. Okay, so this is a little confusing because this is how I interpret this, is that you are visualizing, doing your visualization, and within your visualization, your eyes are closed. So in real life, my eyes are closed. If in my visualization I can't see anything either, all I can do is hear those sounds of the train. For this, I would definitely recommend the kind of mask that blocks out the light. So it's a sleep mask that blocks out light. And then it helps if the mask doesn't touch your eyes, your eyelids. I find that really helps from disconnecting to this reality. Makes it a lot easier. I love to use that and listen to like calm, relaxing music, and it just de-stresses my nervous system. Okay, so you're on this train in the visualization. You can't see anything. So when you feel like you've reached the stop at your desired reality, so I wonder what's showing up there. Like, maybe you have to decide that ahead of time. Like, what does it sound like? You open your eyes. This is what I find really interesting, is that sometimes some people have a better time imagining or visualizing these things. And when we talk about channeling, it's almost like, kind of like channeling, like they're receiving that inspiration. They're not trying to like dredge up this inspiration and creativity within themselves, right? So it's not like a challenging thing. There is this flow of inspiration that is showing up for them. So I don't think it's necessarily like a really something that requires a lot of drudgery. So if you're having a hard time with it, like, shift to something that is easier for you, that helps you get into kind of a creative flow. So that might be a good question to ask yourself, like, after trying to use this technique, like, how did I feel during this? did it help me to get into that creative flow? We've mentioned Abraham Hicks and how you're connecting to this channel or this flow of abundance from the universe. And that's very much similar to the feeling or energy of being connected to this creative flow. Like for example, when you are playing music or writing music, or you have this musical idea, you're connected to that flow and it feels really good. It feels really amazing. Or if you enjoy writing, you can also be connected to that flow that way. Meditation can also give you this connection to the flow. Sometimes when I find I'm just meditating, trying to have a blank slate, it feels very dry. But when I meditate, like focusing on kind of like a place or an image, like I have an image and I'm imagining myself in that place, that's kind of like path working. I can feel that kind of creativity where like I'm almost creating the visualization, but things are kind of showing up in a beautiful way within the visualization. Kind of like this dreamlike state. So, some tips. They said in the video, go ahead and write your affirmations of, I will shift tonight, or I am shifting and I can reality shift. So go ahead and do affirmations about even just getting it done, right? I thought what was funny in this video, on the comments, there was a comment that said, Hogwarts, here I come. And of course, in the article that we saw in the creation templates live stream, they were talking about Hogwarts. So I thought that was fun. Okay, so that video didn't mention the Alice in Wonderland technique. So I thought, you know what, we have to find the steps for this Alice in Wonderland technique. So the person in this video said that you always want to meditate first, because this technique is somewhat complex and involved and heavy on visualization. So it requires a lot of focus, so the meditation can help you drop into that level of focus. You want to lay down on your back and make sure none of your limbs are touching. So I thought what was interesting about this is that starfish method, it requires that none of your limbs are touching. So maybe you don't need a starfish position. You can just make sure that none of your limbs are touching. I'm sure, like, whatever way is comfortable for you to meditate. Some people just sit in a chair and they relax in that chair, and that can be very comfortable as well. So once you're comfortable, oh, I'm sorry about that. I dropped the mic. Once you're comfortable, close your eyes. You imagine you're sitting against a tree, and a character from your desired reality runs past you, and you go and chase after the character. So you want to visualize this in the first person. They fall down the rabbit hole, and you follow them. And you visualize yourself falling into your desired reality world. When I first thought about this, I thought it's kind of hard for me to imagine, because I was like, who's a character from my desired reality? I was thinking of a person. So I was wondering, how does a person fit into a rabbit hole? And this is what I was trying to wrap my mind around. This is a little bit hard to imagine. Like, do they suddenly shrink and fall into it? And of course, how do I fit into this rabbit hole? Maybe I have to go and watch Alice in Wonderland again to try and figure out how this works. So you imagine your desired reality forming around you as you fall down the rabbit hole. And then you see a door, and a white light is forming around the door. Ooh, very mysterious. And there's a key. You open the door with the key. I imagine like a key just like hanging magically. Because these techniques really make me think of magic, like existing in a dimension where you have like this magic key to open this door. Like, this is so much fun and like so crazy. But it almost seems more plausible that way, right? Because if you're going to reality shift, you need like the secret code or the secret key or the secret portal to get to a different reality, right? So it's not something that's within the normal experience. And of course our minds can imagine this. Are they going to argue that this can't be true? Of course. Okay, once you open the door with the key, you should be in your room from your desired reality. I'm going to be careful not to drop the mic again. I know how it creates like that unpleasant sound. Okay, so once you're here in this room, in your desired reality, your desired reality character will ask you, are you ready? And they hold out their hand, and then you take their hand and you feel their hand in your hand. So I'm assuming they're imagining a person, right? And not a rabbit, because we've got a hand. But I can imagine like my cat being this character and holding my cat's paw. It's really soft. I can totally imagine my cat talking too. It would be a little strange, but... And then you open your eyes. And ta-da! There you are. I have to go back and watch some videos on some of the reviews about how people are finding this working for them. Of course, if they've reality shifted, does that mean they're no longer in this reality? So if it works, like where are the testimonials for people where it's worked? Well, maybe they're not here. I don't know. Okay, so I've got one last video that's talking about the Julia method. And this kind of combines or reiterates some of the previous methods. And she said it's really good for beginner reality shifters. Uses affirmations, counting, visualization, and the 5 senses. So you get into a comfortable position, sitting or laying down, and you want to get sleepy. And she mentions you can do breath work to get you relaxed and sleepy. That works well for her. So it seems that it works better when you do meditation or breath work beforehand. You can use this method as an asleep or awake method. I'm not sure how you use it while you're sleeping, but maybe you can use a combination of being awake and sleeping. And you can use a subliminal or guided meditation or relaxing music, or music that you would find in your desired reality. So I'm not sure if it's the last option. Maybe you want to imagine music that you'd find in your desired reality, but I'm not sure. And she said you don't need to stress if you're doing it right or not, because there's no right or wrong in reality shifting. Well, I can imagine like being stressed about it, right? And then what you do is you say I am affirmations in your head or out loud, and you want to use present tense. You want to say those affirmations while counting to 100. And you can say it after every count, or you can say the affirmation after every 5th or 10th number. I can see how it's easier to get to 500 if you're saying the affirmation every 5th or 10th number rather than after every count. And you want to be visualizing the desired reality while you do this, and then you imagine waking up in your desired reality. And that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's the same thing, but you're visualizing yourself waking up in this reality and imagining what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it smells like. I have trouble visualizing the sounds and smells and tastes. It's definitely not my strong suit. Like we talked about in the Spiritual Gifts live stream about our different aptitudes. Like we have this visual aptitude, or this intellectual aptitude where it's really based about kind of like just knowing, and then there's the sounds and the smells and tastes. Although the smells and tastes is very interesting because it could be very confusing. Like, why am I suddenly smelling this when there's no reason? It seems like there's no reason to be smelling this. And so, whatever technique is going to work for you is going to be probably what makes use of your strongest gifts. Of course, most of these are fairly tied to the visual. I suppose the I am affirmations are tied to the thought. And this one specifically talks about like the different senses as well. So I've had trouble incorporating all those 5 senses, and I tend to rely on like the thought aspect, and I haven't been practicing the visualization lately pretty much at all, but I feel like, oh yeah, I should get into it and practice it. So this is the last slide for today. When you talk about being able to do this technique and what's going to get in the way, this week what showed up for me was I woke up one day where I was very grumpy, very negative, and I had some neck pain, and I find that contributes to me feeling quite grumpy. And I had to remind myself, like, snap out of it. Like, yes, I know you're feeling grumpy and you're finding reasons to be upset about things. And you can always find reasons to be upset. So it's important to find reasons to not be upset, or almost like it's like a boulder that's kind of stuck, or not even a boulder, maybe it's like you've got a pathway and you've got like obstructions in that pathway and they're kind of stuck. So like kind of moving and wedging that obstruction out of the way of the pathway so that you can have that creativity and positive energy flowing through it. Because all those reasons why that you need to feel upset, like that's an obstruction. And of course, I know it's so hard. It's so hard to let go of that in the moment, but that's one of the moments where, you can turn the direction you're kind of headed, you turn it around. And you can head in a better direction. Yeah, and so in terms of how I think I will implement this, I was thinking of, I've got my Quantum Leap Year journal, and I did take pictures of it. I was going to share them, but I didn't. I forgot to add them to the slides. And I read this recently, and there's just some beautiful, beautiful messages and manifestations in there. So there's there's the title page, and it has some, yeah, just very inspired writing in it that I really love. So I was thinking I could use that as a script and use it probably for, I think, the counting and affirmation kind of combination. And maybe while doing the affirmations, imagining, like having the visual component as too. So that would be maybe close to the Julia method or the Raven method, I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look. So I'm definitely going to do that at least once this week. And of course, they said it's about 20 minutes to complete, so I'll have to set aside that time to do it. Yeah, so what are you interested in this, and do you think you'll try it this week? And if so, like, what will you try? Like, what method will you try, and what kind of situation will you try it with? Like, how do you want to shift your reality? Or, not even how do you want to, like, what would be fun to play with? What inspires you? It doesn't even have to be something that is goal-oriented, like I want to get this. It can be something that can be fun. So that's it for this week. I hope you have a great week, and we will be starting a new topic next week. So see you next week.